Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Walters Wanderings Travel Podcast. I'm Scott Walters, your host from Go Away Often Travel. Today, we'll be talking sports and sports trips and sports bucket lists and all that goes with that. And I just want to let you know that if you go ahead and schedule a sports trip and book it through Go Away Often Travel, I'll send you some sports bling so you can proudly display it when you are on your trip. So that's the special. Right now we have with us Michael Coldesina. He is from Sports Travel and Tours, one of the industry leaders in bringing you great sports trips. Michael, good morning, because it is morning now, although people can listen to the podcast anytime, wherever you get your podcast from. Thank you for hopping on board. I appreciate it.
Well, and thank you for inviting me.
So let me just preface the whole conversation, because I have to go back in my own history here, back to 1990. In 1990, I told my then girlfriend, who's now my wife, that I would take her on a tour of the Great Lakes. And what we would do is we would hit one baseball stadium in every city, and I promised her I would get her one museum in every city. Now, this is in 1990, before we had the internet and everything else, and my guidebooks on this were the AAA books, because I was a AAA member. So I literally leafed through them to find great museums to satisfy my wife. And, of course, the ballpark spoke for themselves. So we actually went and did a trip that included Buffalo, Toronto, Detroit, Chicago, both parks, Milwaukee, and Cleveland, all in one trip. And
Nice.
yeah, it was a nice trip. And, Wrigley's still around, and the Sky Dome has a new name, but most of the other places are gone. So
It's true.
So it worked out to be quite a trip, and she enjoyed some of the ballparks more than some of the others. She didn't. We both came to the conclusion that Old Comiskey was a dump and needed to be torn down. But we really enjoyed Tiger Stadium a lot, because I guess our seats, because I was able to get seats 3 rows behind the Tiger bullpen, it was actually very, very intimate. And that whole thing with the box kind of setup in the city block was great. But that's sort of my story, that I actually was curating these kind of trips even probably before Sports Travel and Tours came along. So tell us a little about the company and what you do, and we'll talk about some of the trips you have to offer.
So the company in its present form has been around since 1996. Although the owner and some other people were doing trips like what you described before that. And I like the fact that you mentioned that you tried to include some museums for your wife, who was then your girlfriend, because we do try to include attractions and sites that aren't necessarily baseball or even sports related, because we do realize that many of the people that come on our trips may be coming with someone who is the real baseball fanatic, and that they may enjoy baseball and enjoy going to the games. They want to see some other things too. So we do try to include on our hosted baseball road trips other sites and attractions that just anybody would enjoy. But baseball road trips is really what put this company on the map, and we kind of branched out from there, doing other baseball trips and then other sports as well.
So now with baseball trips, now obviously with COVID, we're sort of in this state of suspended animation, as it were, waiting for things to, the dust to settle and everything else to go on. But before COVID, how many different trips did you actually put on in an average year? Say, 2018, 2019. What was the average number of trips you put on for baseball? And we'll get to other sports in a minute.
I would say that in any given year, it averaged probably between 18 to 22 trips. Some years it would be more, some years it would be less. But each year we went into planning with the idea that each of the 30 stadiums would be included at least once somewhere in one of our trips. Sometimes just because of schedules and geographical locations, it made that difficult to do, because we're always beholden to the MLB schedule. And as long of a season it is, with 162 games, you'd be surprised there may only be 3 times during the year that the schedule works out so that you can go from, say, Boston to DC, or DC to Boston, and have each team be in place when it needs to be.
No, I understand that. And of course, when you have stadiums like Denver and Seattle, those are tough ones to schedule in. I know
Exactly.
I was able to get to Seattle because I was going on a cruise out of Seattle, and the scheduling gods had Seattle playing at home the weekend before the cruise went, so I was able to go ahead and see that facility, which is very nice. And actually, one thing I can recommend about the Seattle facility is there's a lot of public transportation that gets you to and from the ballpark, so there's no need to try and
Yes.
find a parking space for your car if you have any kind of shot at that. So
Yeah, their
now,
light rail is extremely accessible there.
yeah, I actually went for 3 days without a car, and I didn't miss not having a car once in 3 days in Seattle. So it was actually it's actually a very pleasant experience. And Seattle won, and they had fireworks after the game as a bonus. And
Nice.
it was funny because the promotion was karaoke fireworks, so people were singing the fireworks are going, and it was good for the kids. My kids were really enjoyed that. So now other sports you cover, obviously it's not just about baseball anymore. You can become a 12-month a year service. So what are some of the
Absolutely.
other what are some of the other sports you cover?
So we cover the four major sports. So in addition to baseball, we cover football, basketball, and hockey, um, and we both do that at a professional, also at a college level. Probably though, 40 to 45% of our business right now are custom trips. So we never know what that next call is going to be. I mean, we've done professional ice skating championships. We've done both men's and women's World Cup. We have done. I'm trying to think some of the other ones that maybe are not as frequent. We've had some requests for some of the I guess triathlon type events. So if they're selling tickets and it's in a location that has hotel facilities, then we can usually put together a package.
So basically, what people can do is if they have their wish list to see something, say the World Curling Championships, they can get in touch with me, and I'll get in touch with you, and we'll make it happen. It's a great partnership that way.
Absolutely.
So now, the one thing I do want to touch upon is the fact that
Mhm.
you're actually the official tour company for the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yes.
How does that work that you A, got that designation, and B, what does it entail when it comes to Hall of Fame induction ceremonies? Because I know there's a big one coming up in July that includes
Mhm.
a couple of New York Yankees. But one because of delays and whatnot, and it ought to be a really special event this July in
Mhm.
Cooperstown.
Mhm. So we were actually providing packages for the event before we became the official licensed travel partner of the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. But it was, I think, between the 2007 and the 2008 induction that we started talking to the Hall of Fame. They had obviously, since we'd done the packages for a number of years, they were able to see what we did and liked how we were doing things. And so basically, since sometime in 2008, we've been their official travel arm, and it's been a very rewarding experience for us. There's some things that we're able to do that other operators may not have access to because of that relationship. It also gives us another avenue to gain customers. So if someone goes to the Hall of Fame website or gives them a call and expresses interest in attending, that call or that click is going to come to us eventually.
Right, because I have seen your packages and I have pitched them to potential clients. No one's bitten yet, but it doesn't mean they won't. And I know that you have basically four different levels of service based on the different price points that are available. And because
Mhm.
Cooperstown is kind of an isolated place, and you know you're not going to actually get accommodations in Cooperstown because the Hall of Fame sort of buys out the local resort there
Yep.
for that weekend, and then rightfully so, I must say. You do have availabilities where you do have to send people by bus from either Albany, which isn't really that far away, or if they buy into a higher price thing, they can go from Oneonta, which is a lot closer. Do
Yes.
you want to describe some of the add-ons that come with the different packages that so this way we can tell the people out there exactly what they need to be looking for?
Certainly. So all of our packages are going to include some basics. Obviously, it includes the hotel, daily transportation, admission to all of the events, daily breakfast. All of the packages include a dinner reception that first night. a box lunch on induction Sunday immediately following the induction ceremony. But as you go up through the different packages, there are certain additional features that are very nice. So for some of our packages, such as the infield and the home run and the grand slam, we offer seating within the VIP section. So these are where the chairs are provided by the Hall of Fame, as opposed to Sports Travel and Tours setting up chairs in advance. You're going to be closer to the stage. It's just a nice upgrade to get a little bit closer. Also, we have packages that include I shouldn't say autographed, it's an engraved Hall of Fame limited edition baseball bat that will have each of the inductees from that class on the bat, and that's for each person that purchases the package. So if you've got a group of 3 that's going, each person will receive a commemorative bat. We also have our, like, for example, our Gold Glove, our Grand Slam and Gold Glove package include a feature called the Artifact Spotlight. This is where the group meets with one of the curators from the Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum, and they bring out anywhere from 8 to 10, 12 artifacts that are either part of the permanent collection but not on the permanent display, or sometimes they're artifacts that have been loaned, and often over induction weekend, they are artifacts that pertain to some of the players or people that are being inducted, and you're able to see them up close and personal, find out a little bit of the backstory, and it runs approximately 45 to 60 minutes, and it's in a very small group setting. And then one of the other key features to many of the programs is what we call our UMPS iView program. This is where former Major League umpire Al Clark, who spent 26 years in the major leagues, gives about a 45, 50-minute presentation, kind of giving you the perspective of an umpire and how they see baseball. And then Al will stay for good grief, sometimes as long as an hour or more, answering questions from the crowd.
Well, those are very fascinating. I definitely would want to be able to talk to the umpire. Actually, years ago, when I lived out in Western Pennsylvania, I lived 3 doors down from Ed Vargo, who used to be the Super umpires for the major leagues, and he was a longtime umpire. And he gave me a lot of insight that was a very, very helpful. And I was a kid then, so it was more insightful to learn about some of the stuff he did and his life on the road and all that. Now let's steer away from baseball a little bit. You said you do football, basketball, and hockey. Now football, of course, is a once weekly sport. And you say you do college and you do pros. Obviously, with the custom packages, say someone wants to see, say, Texas A&M, you can be able to go ahead and find them a hotel and near College Station and tickets. Mm-hmm. But the pros, obviously, those tickets are sometimes more difficult to come by.
Sometimes. And one of the things that we're fortunate in is that in addition to having access to, the same tickets that the everyday fan would be able to have directly through the team, we also have access on the secondary market through some trusted wholesalers. So there really hasn't ever been, I can't think of any events except for possibly one where we have not been able to get tickets. The one that comes to mind is that I think for the last couple of years, Major League Baseball has played a regular season game in, oh my gosh, the name of the city escapes me. And I live in Pennsylvania too. It's where they hold Williamsport, where they hold the Little League World Series. They play a game there, and they do not make those tickets available to the public. And I have yet to see those tickets become available on the secondary market. But events like the Super Bowl and championships, there's always tickets available.
Well, there you go. So now, when it would come to making a custom trip, obviously you would work on, well, actually, let's work backwards a little bit. When you do these regular scheduled trips, how many people generally come on board? What's your general group size on these?
So on our baseball road trips, we would cap them just at about 50, just because of the size of the motor coach. But typically the average departure is going to go out with around 35, 36 people.
So that's not bad. And
Mhm,
obviously, and 3536 gives you enough space on the motor coach, and you don't have to worry the luggage stores underneath. I know how that works. So,
mhm.
so that's actually not bad. And generally, you try to make it so that the distance between cities is not that great. I mean, sometimes we know from geography, sometimes it can be.
Right.
Um, but even like a West Coast swing, you could, you could use it's an extra flight maybe from Seattle down to the Bay Area, and then you sort of drive on down, which is a very beautiful drive anyhow. As long
Yeah.
as you don't go, if you go down the Pacific Coast Highway, I should say, if you go down the interstate, it's a lot more boring.
Yeah. Well, and
Now,
we do try to anywhere on our baseball road trips where the driving segment's going to be more than about 5 or 6 hours, we will include flights as part of the package. So we're going to fly between Seattle and San Francisco. We're going to fly anywhere that includes Denver, whether it's coming from Dallas or coming from somewhere else. That's always a fly in and a fly out, unless it actually starts or ends in Denver. So we're very cognizant of not having people on a bus all day without many stops.
no, I understand that, and that's a good comfort. Now, bucket list destinations. Let's talk about some of those. We have like the Kentucky Derby, the Indy 500, the Masters Golf Tournament, the U.S. Open, the British Open. Do you service those particular type of trips?
Yes. No, for with the British Open, we may not every year have a package that you can go onto the website and see, but we can certainly do a custom package for the British Open. Some other trips that we've had recently this year, we have a package for the Nebraska Cornhuskers versus Illinois Fighting Illini game that's taking place in Dublin, Ireland at the end of August. Last year, we did the two MLB games that had the Yankees and the Red Sox playing in London. Or I guess actually that was 2 years ago. Sorry,
Hmm.
they were supposed to be. They're supposed to be doing that every year. They canceled it last year because of COVID, and they have decided not to do it again for this year. But we expect in 2022 that they will start those games up and move forward with having at least two regular season games in London each year.
So those are great. Now, what about you and your bucket list? What kind of sports event have you not seen that you would want to go see?
I think the first one that comes to mind is I would like to go spend a couple of days in France and watch the Tour de France. That would be high on my bucket list.
Now, would that be the mountain areas, or would you want to go see the final ceremonial business by the Arc de Triomphe and all?
I would probably want to do a mountain climber too, where they're coming by at a much slower pace. But then also maybe just one of the flatter courses, but just someplace where it's not going to be 3 or 4 thousand people jammed into a tight space. So somewhere out in the country in between cities.
So you go ahead and you grab your wine and your baguette and you're all set, huh?
And some cheese.
Of course, can't miss out that. No, I think the one bucket list thing I want to get to all 30 stadiums. Now you do have a special award that you give for anyone who actually goes to all 30 stadiums with your company, correct?
We do. So we started a program more than 15 years ago, and we really did this because of feedback that we received from our customers that told us that the majority of people had a desire to see all 30 major league parks at some point during their lifetime. So we put together a program called the Baseball Stadium Hall of Fame. The first time you travel with us, you receive a passport to baseball. It's about the size of a U.S. passport. It's modeled after that, has a page for each major league stadium. Every time you travel to a new stadium with us, you receive a sticker in your passport that'll have the date of the game, who was playing. When you've been to all 30, we invite you to Cooperstown, Hall of Fame weekend in July. We pay for your overnight hotel accommodations, and we hold an induction ceremony in the Hall of Fame. And we also give you credit for your home park, or if you don't live close to a park, you can designate one as your home park. So obviously, for me as a Philadelphia Phillies fan and living outside of Philadelphia, I wouldn't have to go to a game at Citizens Bank Park on one of our trips. They'll give me credit as that is my home park.
There you go. Now, what happens to someone like me who's been to all these closed stadiums or stadiums have been demolished or otherwise? I mean, I'm kind of left out. And I know I've been to more stadiums that are closed than are open. It's kind of sad in a way, you know?
I'm with you too because I've been to a number of them, like old Three Rivers Stadium, the Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, Candlestick Park in San Diego, old Yankee Stadium. So the list goes on and on.
It is true. It is true. Although some of the places still have things going on. I mean, like Olympic Stadium in Montreal, you can go right next door, and the swimming pool area is right next door where they had all the aquatic events, and it's actually now a city-run pool, so you can actually swim where the Olympians swam. So it's kind of a neat thing. Although there's no team right now, major league team in Montreal, which is kind of a shame. Well, I think the only thing we want to let everyone know is obviously your company is Sports Travels and Tours. You can look them up on the internet, sportstravelandtours.com. But obviously people are connected with me. I'm actually co-branded with you, which means anyone wants to hop on board any of your trips. Or if you want to make your own trip, just go ahead and get in touch with me, and I'll plug in with Michael, and we'll crank something out for you. Some of the trips aren't really inexpensive because of the nature of how the travel works. So we obviously want to let you know that. But I always tell people that price is what you pay and value is what you receive, and these kind of trips give you great value, especially if you put together something of your own self that you're really interested in. You'll get a lot more out of it, and then you have all the professional services available, and you're not doing it on your own. So is there anything else you want to add before we go?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head other than just to let people know that it really doesn't matter what the event is or the game. Give Scott a call, and we can put together a package.
There you go. That's just simple enough. And again, there's lots of great sports that are going to happen. We're going to have the people back in the stands. Sometimes, some places will be a little bit more open about it than others. So we just have to ride this out and wait for the dust to settle. And once it does, I think there's going to be a lot of interest in these kind of trips. And I want to thank you for hopping on board with me, Michael. I really appreciate it. This is the Walter's Wandering Travel Podcast. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, wherever you get your podcast from, and we'll be back with more episodes on the way. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, Scott.